Okay, hi everyone. How are you today? So just before we begin, I just want to get a chance to know where you're all from. So if you can quickly send me, okay, I'm in China, just before we begin, I just want to get a chance to let me know where you're all from. So if you can quickly send me, okay, I'm in China, just before we begin, I just want to get a chance to let me know where you're all from. So if you can quickly send me, okay, I'm in China, just before we begin, I just want to get a chance to let me know where you're all from. So if you can... Okay, can you hear me? Great, so guys, let me know, where are you from? Oh, Hangzhou, awesome. Lovely place. Beautiful lake. So we got Gloria, Catherine, Malika. Where are you guys from? Oh, Vietnam, awesome. I've never been to Vietnam, but I think it will be somewhere I go really soon. Okay, awesome. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just introduce myself a little bit. So you know my name, I'm Mike. I'm from the UK, actually from Liverpool, and plays with the best football team in the world, as you know. And this is a little bit about me that I want to let you know. So the first thing is that I've been teaching since 2005. I worked and lived in China from 2005 to 2014. Nikolai, awesome. Nice to meet you. I hope to get to Russia someday as well. Serbia, awesome. So a few Europeans as well in. As I said, I was born and raised in Liverpool. And I've got quite a few hobbies. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of running. I love painting and drawing, but reading is my kind of big passion. I read a lot of books, especially things like, Game of Thrones is a favorite one of mine. But yeah, a lot of my life I lived and worked in China. That was for teaching, obviously, for 9 years, and I'm back in the UK now. So with that, I want to open the floor to some questions. So do you have any questions for me about me? Okay. Yeah, I am married. I've been married for nearly 7 years to a Japanese lady. I have 2 little boys. Chinese just takes patience. a little bit of time and make sure you talk to a lot of people. The Beatles, yeah, that was my first love as a band. Favorite color? I should say red because I love Liverpool, but actually blue is my favorite color. And no, I don't teach any other languages, mainly because I love to learn other languages, but I'm not quite at the level of Chinese to teach it, for instance. And yeah, Japan is lovely, Andre. Yeah, and Kyoto especially, which is where my wife is from. Yeah. Thanks for the questions, guys. That's awesome. I'm going to start moving into the actual presentation. And then at the end, if you have a lot of questions, please feel free to ask me then as well. So we'll have a bit of time. In Chinese, 行，我叫 Mike，我从英国来的，但是我住在中国差不多9年多，可以吗？So yeah, I'm gonna move into the topic now because we want to have a little bit. So today I just want to introduce the IELTS to you. Vinicius, the first thing to learn Mandarin, I think, just some key phrases, like with any language, but Pinyin. If you can learn Pinyin, which is the kind of Roman alphabet for Mandarin, it will really help you. Yeah. Sorry, 谢谢你啊. So yeah, today, because we haven't got a lot of time, what I'm going to do is introduce you to the format of the test, which kind of topics might come up, and just some tips. We'll have a look at some key questions and so on, and then I'm going to let you guys challenge me with some questions about the part 2 especially. Okay, so let's get into it a little bit. We're going to start just with some basic tips. Because I've always found that the IELTS is one of those tests which people try to prepare a lot for, and it's really important to know what kind of a test it is. It really is a speaking test, as you would have a normal conversation with a normal person, and what they're trying to do is find out exactly how good you are at interacting with another person in English. So they're not going to test you on your knowledge of science or your knowledge of politics or something. And also they're looking out for natural, fluent English. Prepared answers are something they really don't like. So let's go through the tips little by little. Number 1, try to talk as much as you can. Yeah, even if the answer could be one word, try to give more. It's really important that you give them something to assess. Number 2, talk as fluently as possible. That means try not to kind of monitor and change your language for accuracy too much. Obviously try and be as good as you can. But say what comes into your mind. That's one of the things that will help you. Number 3, easy to say, sometimes difficult to do. Relax, try and be confident. Remember, you'll have prepared for the test, and as a speaking test, you're going to hit the level that you are, so that's always good. Number 4, we're going to look at a bit more later on in more depth, but develop your answers. So, as I said, don't just give the simplest answer. Try and give some more information. So if it's an opinion, then try to tell them why you think that, or some supporting evidence for your opinion or something like that. Okay. And number 5, this normally happens, but speak more than the examiner. If the examiner is speaking more than you, then there's probably a problem. Yeah. And Giovanna, it actually isn't a problem which accent you use. When we look at the kind of assessment that they do, it's that you're clear and understandable. So you have an American accent, if you have a British accent, if you have an Italian British accent, or if you have a Chinese English accent, that's all okay. All it matters is that you're clear and that the conversation is going well. Yeah. And number 6, this is an important tip. If you don't really understand or you're not sure what the answer should be, don't worry about asking for clarification. Okay, you can say, oh, do you mean this or this? Or, hey, does that mean this? Or something like that. It's better than just going ahead with an answer you're not sure about and then not answering the question properly, because that will get you less marks. Number 7, this is a big one. Everybody likes to go online, talk to people who've done it before, and prepare an answer. There's 2 problems with that. Your fluency will drop. Prepared answers, the intonation tends to change, and so it becomes really easy for the examiner to learn if you're using a prepared answer. So try not to do that. Try instead to be a little bit flexible. Say what's on your mind at the time. But when you prepare for a bunch of topics that you think might be tricky for you, and also go over the ones that you like. Yeah. Number 8, definitely give your opinion. They're not gonna assess you on whether they like your opinion or not, whether your facts are correct or not. They won't do that. All they want to know is, can you speak English well? Okay. And yeah, number 9, just the way to prepare. Just make sure you do prepare before. There's a lot of topics. We'll see some of them in a minute. And just practice at home. Practice with a friend. Practice with a teacher if you can find a teacher. That's great. But just make sure you're comfortable talking about a range of different topics. Okay. Before we move on, any quick questions about that? You can re-watch this later on, so if you do want to review any of the things that we've just seen, you can come back to it later, okay? So I'm going to move on a little bit. So Giovanna asked us about accent, and here's a really quick overview of the kind of things that the examiners are looking for. So on the right-hand side here, you can see a graph with A1, A2, B1, B2. And the IELTS scores are next to that. I think most people taking IELTS, they need between, say, 6 and 7.5 if they're coming to the UK to do a degree or a master's degree, for instance. So you're looking at kind of B1, B2, C1 as the normal range for IELTS there if you're doing another course. And that's all based on an international framework for assessment. So you should see the same kind of framework in schools if they're using the CEF and other tests like Cambridge and so on. You can find out if you've done TOEFL, TOEIC, whereabouts you might be on the IELTS. Yeah. On the left, just to give you an idea of what they're looking for when you speak, in the green box, we've got fluency and coherence. So fluency is just that you can talk without hesitation, apart from natural hesitation, and that your language makes sense, so that the person listening can understand what you said, where you're going, and that kind of thing. In the red box, it says lexical resource. You'll see this on the website. This just means a good range of vocabulary. So you're not just using very simple or very repetitive words, but you have good vocabulary. And to get that, you need to go onto the websites to have a look at the kind of lists of typical vocabulary for different topics. In the grey box on the bottom there, grammatical range and accuracy. Obviously, they want your grammar to be accurate. But one of the kind of key mistakes that people make is that you can't make any mistakes. You can, and they expect you to make some mistakes. Until you get to, say, 7.5, they're expecting you to make some kind of mistakes with your grammar. But as well as the accuracy, they really want to see you using a good range of grammar. So that means in the past, in the present, in the future, using conditionals, using any of the kind of the phrases which we use to kind of delineate who is who. So, the guy who did this, some of these relative clauses and so on. But just that you're using a good range to accurately say what you want to say. Again, there's a lot of good stuff that the teachers can help you with, or the websites can help you with, but just make sure you're not repeating the same present simple all the time, which is one of the things the examiners see. Okay, and the last one, pronunciation. I find that students worry about this one quite a lot, and pronunciation is a skill. It's not something you can learn in a couple of days. So you do need to be practicing your English a lot, and that means that you can actually get someone to listen to you and point out, maybe where you need to improve a little bit. You can practice. Recording yourself is a good idea as well, so you can hear what you sound like. Okay, and Gloria, thanks for the question. There's a whole group of places, but the best place to look is on the British Council IELTS website. So if you go to that website, you can just put these search terms in, and this will take you to the kind of main page. Yeah, if you Google those, it should take you there. Okay, coming through the next part, common IELTS topics. I wanted to just give you a sense of how many topics there could be. I mean, we look 20. You're welcome, Gloria. 20 or 30 different kind of topics: business, education, clothes, people, towns. What do you think about technology? It could be many different areas, and so you do have to prepare for a range of topics. But the one thing all the topics have in common are that they should be things that you think about at home pretty much every day. When you're reading the news, when you're talking to friends, when you're just going about your work or your personal life. So none of the topics will be something which you've really never thought of before. But it is much better to kind of prepare and look at some of the common questions that come up, at least to get an idea for yourself of what you think about that topic, and so on like that. And we'll have a look at a couple of topics today, but we can't cover all of them. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so before we get into some of the tasks we're going to do together, thanks, Arlene. Thanks for saying that. Yeah. Yeah, Gloria, you can actually come and see the video on the web page afterwards and repeat it. Yeah. But let's take a quick look at the structure of the test, and then we're going to do some tasks together. Okay, so we can see how well you get on. So a lot of this you should already know, but the speaking test has three main sections. Part 1 is just the introduction and minimal interview. Part 2 is you get a chance to do a 1 or 2 minute kind of talk on something which they ask you about. And Part 3 is this two-way discussion. We'll see a bit more about that toward the end. But the two-way discussion is a lot more of a conversation. The first two are really you speaking and responding to questions from the examiner. The important thing is the speed of the test. So if you look, we've only got 4 or 5 minutes for part 1, 3 to 4 minutes for part 2, and then 4 to 5 minutes for part 3. So it's only going to be like 12 to 14 minutes for the whole test. So it's going to be quite quick. Yeah, the first thing they're going to ask you part one is the most straightforward thing. So they're going to introduce themselves, tell you so to say. IELTS, Giovanna, IELTS covers all of the CEFR levels. It's how well you do that determines where you finish on the scale. Yeah, so the test is the same for everybody, whether you're low level or high level. But the first thing that they're going to do is ask you who you are. They say, okay, introduce yourself, or what's your name, where are you from, that kind of thing. And then they'll say, can you confirm your identity, please? So that's the first thing. And identity, what they mean is they probably want to see your passport, yeah, or possibly you have an ID card, like a national ID. This is a student ID, but you might have a national ID card at home. Often with students from the European Union in the UK, they don't use a passport, they use their national ID card. Yeah. The topics are going to be really familiar to you. It's going to be home, work, family, study, your hobbies and interests, that kind of thing. And so here's a couple of possible ones that might come up, like where's your hometown? What do you like most about your studies? Obviously, if you say you're in work, they'll ask you what do you like most about your job, that kind of thing. And they might ask you about the future. And we talked about grammar before. When they ask you about the past or the future, you do want to make sure you change the grammar to fit the question. Okay. So yeah, lots of different things there. You want to give a full answer, but remember, you're going to be asked somewhere between 4 and 6 questions within 4 to 5 minutes. So if you're talking a lot, too much, then that's not great, but don't talk too little, yeah. Maybe about, say, a minute, just under a minute for each answer, I think. Okay, so let's have a look at some tips. I'm back. First thing is relax. When you go into the test, just take a deep breath. Remember, it's just you having a conversation with another person. Okay. The examiners are normally lovely people. Yes, they're doing it as a job, but they're genuinely interested in what you have to say. One of the best things about being an IELTS examiner is you get to meet lots of different people. Hey, welcome, Aki. So yeah, they do want to know your answers, so they'll be interested in your story, totally. Make sure you answer the question, so always consider the question before. And one tip, and we'll see this a bit more, is to maybe incorporate the question into your answer to make sure. So you might say, okay, where do I come from? Well, I come from a place like this, okay. Or what's your favorite color? Someone asked me before. I think my favorite color is, okay, like this. Laura, welcome. I'm fine. How are you? As I said before, don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you are, you tend to close up and you don't really relax and give your best performance. So just go with it. You will be good as you can be if you're relaxed and you're not afraid. And try to show off. Yeah, that means give a bit more. If you have an opinion, or if you're passionate about something, say something more. That will increase your score and also make you feel better as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to show you a couple of A or B answers. So we're going to look at some answers from part 1 to a very simple question. And what I want you to do is tell me which answer do you think is the better answer. Okay. So in the comments, I want you to be saying A or B, and we'll see how many of you get the right answer. So really simple first question. Can you swim? The first one is, yes, I can. I learnt at school when I was about 7 years old. Swimming lessons were compulsory at our school, like most schools, I think. That's A. And B, yes, I can. I like swimming. So guys, I want to know, which one do you think is the best answer? Leo's saying A. A from Archie. Thanks, Catherine. You're welcome. A, of course. A is the best. Yeah, of course. They're both accurate. You know, they're both in a normal conversation. Both of them are good answers, but for a test, that little bit more information. A is showing off more language, more of what they can do. So yeah, we're looking at A as the best answer for this one. Okay, let's do another one. This one's going to be tougher than the first one. Okay. So this one, they might ask you, is, when was the last time you traveled by train? And answer A is, I'm not quite sure. Let me think. It was a while ago now. I think the last time was last year when I went up to see some friends I'd not seen in a while in the north of the country. Yes, that was it. It was a journey of about 3 hours, and I had to change trains once during the journey. The first train was a bit crowded and noisy, as I think there were people on there going to a football match, but it was an okay trip for most of the way. Or B, yesterday I travel each day to my work. It is very easy and quick, faster than using a car. The trains in my city are very crowded during the morning and the night time. So A or B? We're going to go with A. A. Lots of A's, yeah. Lots of A's. Did I switch it? We're going to find out. Yeah, exactly, Leo. Yeah, and everybody, yeah, great. Actually, A is the best answer here. Again, because it's more complex. There's more going on in that answer. The reason it's good, I know there's some information in there which is not necessarily relevant to the question, which might make you think, okay, it's not as good. But actually, because it's all centered around the actual train journey, it's good, and it shows off more of what you can do. However, B isn't as bad an answer as it might look. Like we see, yesterday I travel each day to my work. The grammar's not quite right there. But what's good about this answer is that there's more information than just a very quick one. So the person is trying to use a little bit more language, and you get points for trying in IELTS rather than playing it safe. So that's really important. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to part 2 pretty soon. Any quick questions before I move on? Okay, so now we're going to move into part 2. Okay, so a bit more information here. Now, this one, when was the last time I travelled by train? Actually, it was at the weekend. Yeah, I travelled back to my grandmother's 50th wedding anniversary, which was amazing. They've been married for 50 years. So yeah, I travelled on 3 trains at the weekend. Pretty good, except my kids got very bored. Yeah. So part 2 is this individual long-term turn, and I think this is the one that people get the most worried about, and it's certainly one that you need to prepare for. So you do get 1 minute to prepare and make notes. They'll give you this cue card, so it won't be this color, but it will look like this. This is one example. It could be many things. So you'll get the overall thing, describe a lake, a river, or sea you visited, and then you should say, and it will give you 3 prompts. So in this case, where the lake, river, or sea is, how often you visited it, what activities you do there, and then explain why you like this particular place. So we'll always follow this kind of format, whatever the question is. And the cue card is very, very helpful. Firstly, because it will tell you what the parts of the answer should be. You have to talk for 1 to 2 minutes, but 1 to 2 minutes is not as long as you might think. Okay, so you can get a fair bit of information in, but if you go much further than answering these questions, you're most likely going to run over the 2 minutes. Use the cues to help. Again, just like the other answers, if you include the cue in your answer, that's going to help you structure and answer all of the parts. And if you miss a part, then they might think you haven't understood it, or they might think you haven't visited it. So do try and answer all of the parts and use all of the cues. Good tip is tell a story. A bit like Amy just asked me last time I traveled by train. I had some problems with my kids on there. I had some different thing, a reason to go, like my grandmother's wedding anniversary. Think of a little story around this particular thing which will help you to talk and be more fluent and give a fuller answer. And the last one, and this is where you have to prepare, is make sure you're using relevant vocabulary. So one of the ways that they mark in the IELTS is by, okay, they use this grammar and they use this vocabulary. If it's about education, if it's about sports, if it's about politics, they might be expecting some kind of buzzwords. So it is a good idea to go online or to just practice using some of the books and other materials to find out which language is normally expected. Okay. The minute that you get is quite important. If you plan well and you'll be able to make some notes, so you can write some things down, then you can actually give a very good answer. It takes some of the stress off. It's only 1 minute, but 1 minute is definitely better than nothing. And one technique that's recommended is using what we call mind maps. So you'll see these, have seen these before. So here's an example for this one. Somebody's written down a little lake visited, which is the main topic, and then put off the cues on each side here. So the person's written how often, okay, they went to this lake every summer for many years. Yeah, it's in the Lake District. Welcome, Andy. And they like the place because the scenery is really nice. It's breathtaking. It's a lovely, tranquil, peaceful place. And so all of these kind of things are going to help you to build your story. And this doesn't take very long to do. So whatever you get, try and do a plan like this, and that's going to help you to give a really nice answer, okay? Okay, any questions so far? Okay, what I'm going to do next, guys, I'm going to let you give me a bit of a test. So to see how this goes, what I'm going to ask you to do, we're going to use the same cue card. And I want you to send me a list of words, like a place, who, what, how often. So I'm going to try and answer this question using words that you give me, okay? So I want you to write down and message to me on the comments board exactly what you would like to. I'll give you a minute to write that down, and I'll create a story from the answers that you give me, okay? Okay, so we got one from Giovanna. I'll go, yeah, I'm going to try two of them. The two, I've got one from Giovanna and one from italki. So Giovanna, I remember going to the Mediterranean Sea many, many years ago with my mother and my family, so my sister and my brother and my father and my mother. It was actually just off the coast of Spain, and we love swimming. So we would go out on the beach, chill out on the beach, and then, yeah, go swimming a lot, eat ice cream, those kind of things. And we haven't really been there very often because it takes quite a long time to get there, and we have to take a plane. But I think in our life we went to the same resort maybe 3 or 4 times, and I just really liked it because it was a chance to be with my family. It was a chance for us to spend time together when we were busy at work and other things, and we don't get together very often. Yeah, so it's an absolutely beautiful place. Plus the food, the environment, and the weather were all way better than here in Manchester. So Giovanna, that's your one. Let's see if I can do another one. Ooh. Okay, so I'm gonna do the one from Natalia. This is a tricky one. Let's see. So there is a lake quite near my home, which is a man-made lake. It's in a place called Hoy Lake, and it's a very, very good place to go and do boating, waterboarding, that kind of thing. We always go. I always used to go there with my university friends because they love yachting, they love boating. But also quite close, there's a beach. So once we'd finished and we were tired, we would just go and relax, get an ice cream, go sunbathing, and keep a good tan. And of course, in the UK, the weather is really not great, so it's always in the summer. But we went nearly every weekend. It was fantastic, just a great place to hang out with friends. Okay, so I'm gonna have to. Sorry, Bisa. I'll try your one maybe another time. But that looks wonderful, the North Coast in Egypt. And I'm seeing a lot of really nice answers here. So really quickly, you guys have managed to get together the skeleton of a really good answer for the part two. So as you can see, I think this is a tricky question. Not everybody has a lake or a river in their mind that they can think of. But yeah, as you can see, it's not that scary if you just plan quite well. Okay. Okay, so moving on a little bit, guys, and thanks for the challenge. That was really good. I'm going to come on to part three, and this one, it's a little bit like part one in that the examiner is going to talk to you, and there's going to be a back and forth between you and the examiner there. But they are going to be trying to push you a bit more. They'll ask you about more abstract issues and ideas, like, for instance, they might ask you about what do you think the impact of higher education is on the economy. Something maybe at that level. We'll see a few examples in a minute. And so you have to kind of open your mind and be ready to give your opinions. And that's really what they're looking for, is your ideas, your opinions, your true thoughts. And they are going to be in the discussion with you. So they will ask you for more information, which is very helpful. Try and give them something interesting to work with you from. Again, just even though they are part of the conversation, you still need to think that you are doing most of the talking. Okay, so make sure you answer the question. Same trick. Try and just work in the question into your answer. There are definitely no wrong answers. So it's just what you think. But you definitely won't be marked down for saying something which you think is an unpopular opinion or something you think which is a strange opinion. It's just what you want to say. The important thing is all of that supporting idea. Why do you think that? Do you have any newspaper reports that you read, any experience in your life which made you believe that or made you have that opinion? So yeah, think about those things and practice different topics before you go into the test. This one, we're going to do a little bit on this. Sometimes, because of the kind of topics you get asked, you're going to need a little bit of time to prepare in your mind. It might not be something that you think about every day. And so what you don't want to do is just stay still and wait and try not to do that. Try and have a group of phrases that you can use to buy a little bit of time. And this is one of the most obvious ones. That's a good question. Let me think about that. And it will give you some time and be very natural while you're waiting for your mind to tell you what to say. So let's have a little bit again on the comments section. Do you know any other phrases that you can use in this situation? Like, that's a good question. Let me think about that. What might you use? Yeah, Ali, that's a nice one. Yeah, I've never thought about that. However, I think, yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, Giovanna, that's another good one. Yeah. Yeah, let me see and think a little bit about it. Yeah, good. We got one more. Okay, I'm sure when you come out of here, you'll be able to go home or go online and find tons of these phrases. But yeah, don't worry is the main thing. Buy a little bit of time, and we have lots of language to use to do that. So yeah, use it. It actually shows the examiner that you can use language to do that. So it's more points. So do that. And last little bit of information about this again to repeat from before. But yeah, don't be afraid to ask for clarification. If you don't understand, always ask. Yeah. Also, does this mean this or this? Or for instance, you might be asked a little bit about the economy, and you might say, "Do you mean the economy for middle class people, or do you mean for people, lower class people, or something like that?" And so it might be something you don't quite understand exactly what they're talking about, and you can clarify there. Just don't be afraid to do that. Okay, let's look at some examples. Okay, and these are questions that have been asked and will probably come up again, but there are literally hundreds of different questions that might happen. So the topic here is values and the way they change. So we always talk about this, or we often talk about this. When I was a kid, people used to really be more like this, and these days I think they're rushing around too much. People don't pay each other much respect, and they don't have the time to talk to each other. So we're talking about values changing over time here, okay? And some of the topics that might come up, like what kinds of possessions give status to people in your country. So when my grandmother was growing up, yeah, Giovanna. Yeah, Giovanna, that's a good one from the previous slide, yeah. And so what kind of possessions give status? As I was saying, my grandmother's generation, having a television would give someone status. And people would come to her house to watch the television because she was the only one in the street that had one. But now you have to have a really nice phone, a really nice car, maybe a great house. So these are the kind of possessions that they're talking about. And when it moves on a little bit, they're going to try and look at how you compare and how you talk about two things together here. So has it always been the same, or were different possessions thought of as valuable in the past? And that's where you get the chance to say, well, now it's more like this, but before it was like this, and we're comparing two things. Or over time, I think people are more and more interested in technology like phones. So we're seeing this continuous change over time. And the more you can use a range of grammar to help you do that here, the better the score that you'll get. So yeah, these are just some examples there for us. Any questions on this bit before we move on? Okay, so let's wrap up a little bit. I've got a little mini test for you. Yeah, see what you remember from today's presentation. So first, let me know in the comments, how many parts to the IELTS speaking test are there? Spot on, Gloria. Yeah, 3. Aline as well. Oh, 3. So yeah, we got 3 parts, Natalia. Yeah, just 3. So we got part 1, which is the introduction and getting to know you. Part 2, which is the 1 to 2 minute discussion on one topic. And part 3, which is the discussion between the examiner and you on more abstract topics. Yeah, perfect. And if you want to review any of what we said, you can go back into the video later on this site. Yeah. How long will a test last? Henry, it's not a bad idea, but don't overuse them. So any kind of idioms are going to show the examiner that you know some, which is great. That shows a good range. Yeah. And it just don't use them because you want to use that idiom. Use them because it's the correct idiom to use in that part. Yeah. Exactly, Gloria and Giovanna. So, yeah, the maximum is going to be 15 minutes. It could be like 12 to 15 minutes. Yeah, good. Isa, perfect. Yeah, you were listening perfectly there. Yeah, and this is just the speaking part, right? There's another 3 parts to the IELTS test, which you do sometimes on the same day, sometimes on a different day. Okay. So, generally, guys, can you give me 3 good tips you learned from today's class? Something that you liked. Hi, Ahmed. Oh, great, yeah. And Gloria, yeah, with the mind map, that's great. Not everyone likes the mind map, by the way, guys. You could just make a list of things if you wanted, if that's more like you. But mind maps are really helpful for me, and I've seen other students use them really nicely. Yeah, don't be afraid. Tell a detailed story. That cue card, yeah, and you get that from the examiner, so make sure you use all the stuff they give you. Yeah, that's the most helpful thing they'll give you. Henry, I think then what you need to do is find a partner, get some test questions, and just start going through them. If you go on to the British Council website, you'll find practice tests, lots of example questions, this kind of thing. There's loads of websites which have lots of examples, so go on and just practice for a few weeks with your friends or with a teacher would be even better, yeah. Arky, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, make sure you're asking for clarification. Get some time. These are really good things to do, and will help you again to reduce your stress. It really gives you that space to answer the question. And Laura, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just keep speaking. Hesitancy happens, so yeah, just carry on with it. Yeah, fantastic, guys, and I'm sure that any of you who've done the IELTS or other speaking tests will have ton of advice for each other as well. So always speak to someone who's done the test. Make sure that you're chatting with your friends and your teachers about it. And the more you practice, the more confident you will feel. I think that's one of the key messages. Okay, guys. So from that, I'm going to just open for a few minutes just to some quick questions and answers before we finish. And just want to say thanks all of you for taking part. It was really nice to chat to you, and thanks for interacting and giving me the comments that I needed to do the challenge and the rest of it. That was really good. Yeah, Giovanna, that reading thing especially I like. The more you read, if you go online, the more information you'll have to think about on the day. So be a reader. Go on to YouTube and listen to videos or watch videos on the topics. Yeah. The essay, that's not really a thing for today, but I think planning is really important for the essay, Andre. What you need to do is make sure that you have nice coherent sections, good useful introduction and conclusion. There's a lot I could tell you about the writing. If you want to contact me afterwards, then please do. But it's all about structure and content. So you need to be putting things in a nice coherent thing. Yeah. So that depends on the test center, but yeah, often, but not always. So some students go to the speaking test on a different day. There's quite a few. I tend to make my own materials, but Ready for IELTS is one I think that the school uses where I was working before, and that was quite a good one. But my advice is to go onto the British Council website. They have a ton of information on there, and really the textbooks. Some of them, some people like one and some people like another. But Ready for IELTS was good. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. But I'm on italki, so if you have any questions as well for me after this session, then you can find me there. I don't mind answering your questions there. Yeah, thank you to all of you guys as well. It was really wonderful to speak to you today. Yeah, I hope to see you again in the future, guys. So we'll wrap it up there. As I said, if you want to ask me questions afterwards, find me on italki. Leave some comments under the video, whatever you want to do. And have a great day, guys. I'll see you again hopefully soon.